disc delivers crisp, high-fidelity audio in a portable form factor with a 16-bit signal and a staggering 74 minutes of playtime. It's the sound of the future. Make memories to good music. Invest in quality headphones. Always make a soundtrack, because pretty soon you won't be listening to music. You'll be listening to who you were.
I only recently learned that not everyone experiences frisson, a psychological phenomenon often referred to as an aesthetic chill. It's the sensation of goosebumps during a song that hits too hard, the tightening in your chest during a movie scene that somehow understands you, that brief moment where art bypasses thought entirely and speaks directly to the nervous system. Scientists still debate exactly why it happens, but many believe frisson occurs when emotion, memory, and anticipation collide all at once. Your brain recognizes a pattern, predicts where it's going, and then suddenly experiences something more powerful than expected. The result is physical. Your body reacts before your mind can explain why. But not everyone experiences this. Some people can listen to music without ever feeling chills. They can revisit old memories without emotionally reliving them. Nostalgia, for them, is recognition more than sensation. A recollection rather than a wound. Nostalgia has never really been about the past. It's about emotional reconstruction. That's why some of my favorite pieces of media, my favorite art, are those that act as reconstruction of a time and a place. It doesn't even have to be a time that I existed in, but as long as it captures that feeling of a personal memory, I can somehow transcend and put myself into it. Think George Lucas's masterpiece, American Graffiti, which captures one final night of high school students in the early 60s before they all split apart. Or Richard Linklater's Dazed and Confused, crystalling the final school day before summer break in the 70s. Or even Larry Clark's Kids, which follows a group of kids in 90s New York. And while films have attempted to catch that fleeting feeling of nostalgia, of lost memories and emotion, it's not really something video games have attempted. That is, until the newest release from Beethoven and Dinosaur, the small 3-hour-ish experience called Mixtape. At first glance, Mixtape looks familiar. Teenagers on their final night together before their lives change forever, and they move on, and ultimately do what everyone does, and grow apart. Late night conversations, music blasting through cheap speakers, empty suburban streets glowing under neon lights, the kind of imagery that immediately triggers a collective memory, even if you've never lived through the exact era being portrayed. But Mixtape isn't really interested in accuracy. It's interested in feeling. The game doesn't attempt to recreate adolescence as it actually happened. It recreates adolescence in the way we remember it. Fragmented, exaggerated, cinematic. Tiny moments, inflated by emotion until they become mythological in hindsight. That's what nostalgia does. It edits. Our brains work as editors, putting together our lives in the most cinematic light possible.
As the top of the clapperboard touches the bottom, the editor makes a mark on the picture.
How many times have you sat around with friends and said the words, "Remember that time?" Well, Mixtape is those times for our three main characters. It cuts out the awkward silences and preserves the emotional highlights. It turns ordinary nights into defining moments. It convinces us that there's meaning hidden inside things we barely noticed when they were happening. And music is often the thing that preserves those memories. There's a reason hearing an old song can feel like time travel. The brain stores music differently than ordinary information. Songs become attached to periods of life, relationships, identities, and even specific versions of ourselves. A single melody can collapse 10 years into 10 seconds. A song can remind us of a particular person in such a way it's painful to listen to that said song again.
As we continue our mission for booze on the way to Camille Cole's party, I require something that fills every possible spectrum of sound, causing the brain to superaneurysm and explode and die. I feel nothing but rage. This is Love by the Smashing Pumpkins.
That's why nostalgia through music feels so violent sometimes. You're not just remembering the song, you're remembering who you were when you first heard it. The person you wanted to become, the person who no longer exists in your life, the dreams that survived, and the ones that didn't. A mixtape, as an object, has always represented more than music. It's emotional curation, a collection of feelings disguised as songs. Every track placement is intentional. Every transition says something the creator didn't know how to verbalize directly. And that's what makes the title Mixtape so important. The game itself feels structured like a memory, not linear memory, but emotional memory. Moments bleed into one another, time stretches and compresses, reality becomes secondary to mood, characters remember feelings of the moment rather than the reality of it. We don't remember our lives objectively. We remember impressions, colors, music, weather, the feeling of sitting in the back seat of a car at night while someone else controlled the destination, the strange awareness during adolescence that everything feels temporary before you even understand why. Youth is perhaps the only time in our lives we experience things before fully understanding them. Nostalgia can feel comforting and devastating at the same time. It allows us to revisit moments while also reminding us they're gone forever. Mixtape seems deeply aware of that contradiction. Even its visual style feels dreamlike. Not dreamlike in the surreal sense, but dreamlike in the way that memory itself functions. Certain details are hyper-specific, while everything else fades in the atmosphere. The world feels less like a physical place, and more like an emotional landscape assembled from adolescence itself. And although I immediately fell in love with the style and design of Mixtape, there's a scene about halfway through where the characters need to traverse through a field. And rather than have you walk, you float, soar, while the song Airwalker plays. And it's here where I fell in love with the experience. Controlling the character as they run freely with the right song makes for an emotional experience. And maybe that's why games are uniquely powerful vehicles for nostalgia compared to film or music alone. Games allow participation. A film can show you someone else's memory. A song can trigger your own. But a game places you inside the emotional rhythm of remembering. You move through space. You control the pacing. You inhabit moments rather than simply witnessing them. That interactivity changes everything, because nostalgia is inherently participatory. We don't passively remember, we actively reconstruct. Every memory is partially fictionalized by the present self interpreting it. In that sense, Mixtape isn't really about the past at all. It's about the act of remembering.